trying to do is keep the airflow that's in the theater, right, from having to go far, that continue to drop people off to allow other flights to take from Qatar forward to, for instance, into Dulles. So, it depends on how many folks we have. Is it a full flight of SIV? Is it other Afghans? Is it, Americans? So that is just extremely dynamic. With Transcom and the commanders, as those manifests are done, they make those decisions, on the spot.
So is the idea that only SIVs have been fully processed are going to be coming into the U.S. for now, or will there be a situation where any of the Afghans that are evacuated will be brought onto bases and then work through the system once they're here?
So what's very important that we will continue to do is the full screening and vetting process that takes place from the beginning all the way to making a final decision of where somebody goes. I know we will continue that. And then going back to right now, the guidance is, and will continue, is to continue to increase our outflows to make that happen.
General?
Yes.
Is the American flag flying at the airport in Kabul right now?
Yes.
There's some talk from veterans, people who have served in Afghanistan, that the U.S. Embassy, which cost over nearly $800 million to build, why was that closed and the flag taken to the airport? Shouldn't the flag come down last from an embassy when conducting an evacuation?
I can't speak for the decisions the embassy makes and what they've done. I know that embassy operations or consular operations continue on Kabul airport, and as you know, at the military headquarters, where U.S. personnel are continuing to execute the mission, the flag flies.
When evacuating a country, doesn't the American flag come down from the embassy last? That's what a lot of veterans are saying.
I would say. Yeah. No, I was just going to say is the flag continues to fly, and the mission continues right now.
Okay, just a couple more. Courtney.
One for each of you. John, Congressman McCarthy put out a statement last night saying that within moments of President Biden saying that we have succeeded in Afghanistan, the Secretary Austin and General Milley provided a bleak assessment of the situation on the ground, and that he's saying that Secretary Austin specifically acknowledged that Americans were being beaten on their way to the airport. Can you give us any more detail about what, who these Americans are that Secretary Austin was talking about?
Courtney, we've actually been talking about this for several days here here at this particular podium. We know of cases, a small number that we know of. And we don't have perfect visibility, but we know of a small number of cases where some Americans, and certainly, as the Secretary also said in that statement, Afghans that we want to evacuate. It wasn't just Americans that he talked about, have been harassed and in some cases beaten. We don't believe it is a very large number, and in a matter of fact, the numbers would indicate, and I've said this before, that most, by and large, most Americans who have their credentials with them are being allowed through the Taliban checkpoints and onto the gate and into the gate and onto the airfield. So by and large, most Americans are having no problems that we're aware of. Now, I have to caveat it, and I'll do it again, and I've done it every day. We are aware of sporadic cases where they aren't being allowed, where there is some harassment going on, and yes, some physical violence has occurred. And as the Secretary has made clear, and he made clear in that phone call, that's unacceptable. And Admiral Vasely has made that clear to the Taliban commanders that he's talking to, that it's unacceptable.
But what I'm wondering is the cases that the Secretary was talking to the members about, were those occurring yesterday? I mean, are these recent, or are we talking about cases that were
over the course of the last week? We have been made aware of this. I mean,
more cases since the U.S. started talking to the Taliban and telling them not to do it?
I don't have an exact breakdown day by day, Courtney. I mean, we've been in touch with the Taliban for quite some time. I think over the course of the last week, and we've certainly made our concerns known. And I think equally frustrating is the fact that what appears to be happening is that not every Taliban fighter either got the word or decided to obey the word. And I can't speak to Taliban command and control, but by and large, and for the most part, Americans with their credentials are being given the passage they need through the checkpoints and are getting onto the field. Again, security conditions permitting.
And then just one more for you, General Taylor. There were some reports overnight on social media, including some pictures showing empty C-17s flying out, some passengers saying that they were virtually empty when they were leaving. Is that the case? I mean, do you have any sense of, are some aircraft leaving Kabul airport relatively empty without evacuees, and if so, why?
Yeah. First, that flight cycle continues, and what the commanders on the ground know is to continue to evacuate and ensure everybody gets out as fast as possible. What we don't know is maybe on that situation, what I'm not aware of, that exact flight might have had a different mission to do something else. So I can't answer that. But what I do know, as you've seen in our throughput, is we are getting those that are ready to fly, that have been fully screened, ready to fly on aircraft and moving to onward destinations.
But the 3,800 that you mentioned in your opening statement, those are including the 32 charters that went out and other.
That's correct.
Do we know how many of the 6 U.S. military C-17s, do we know how many people were on those by any chance?
Approximately 1,600.
Thank you.
Okay, last one, Eric. No, Lucas. Let Eric have a follow-up.
Of course, Eric.
General, the 17,000 have been evacuated. Do you know roughly how many have gone to that initial way stop, whether it's Qatar or now, as we learned yesterday, the UAE and Bahrain also took some of those initial flights? And is the Qatar facility essentially full up at this point? You're going to have to permanently transition to some of these other intermediate way stations?
No. So, as you remember, as we talked about the number that continue to move, I just want to talk about Qatar, specifically. There was time period yesterday where we delayed flights going in there to allow other flights to leave to ensure that the current capacity that Qatar, which was really well done there to continue to build that capacity so fast, to allow those flights to depart before we bring flights in. And now that we have Ramstein open also, like I mentioned earlier, that will allow us today in the next 24 is the plan to assess to get back into numbers that we saw the day before and moving them out.
Okay, thanks everybody.
Quick one.
We have to get going,
Has the terrorist
Lucas.
threat against the United States increased since the Taliban took over the country?
Are you bringing them on?